Hi, my name is Scott Daly, and I'm the Director of Client Service at Focus 3. Just finished doing a Big Lots keynote on the rFactor and exceptional performance in delivering a specific culture that they're trying to achieve throughout their stores across the country. We were talking about how to bring that elite, exceptional performance to delivering the culture they're trying to deliver, which they call the Jennifer experience. Our goal is at the end of this is that the people bring the best version of Big Lots forward, and that the corporate experience that they deliver reflects that Jennifer experience that they want their customers to walk away with. Hopefully you can learn something from this and from my personal experience that I can share with you in order to be the best version of you every day. The challenges out there are real, and every one of us has to respond in a way that produces the best version of us. Elite performance starts in here. So let's get to work. Well, thank you for having me back again. I'm kind of set all my stuff down. Yeah, since last we spoke, I got more responsibility. That's what I was hoping for. But I actually had a great experience, and I'm glad you guys are having me back. Earlier, I believe it was about a month ago, I got an opportunity to go to one of the stores in Polaris, and I got a chance to experience what the goal was with the Jennifer experience and look around the stores. And I was shocked, because I remember growing up, you would go to Odd Lots back in the day, and then the change over to Big Lots, and then obviously the opportunity to go into the store. And the dramatic difference to me, just visually, was amazing. But I want to ask you, what actually delivers that Jennifer experience? What delivers it? Is it just the storefront? Is it just the stuff in it? It's people do it. And this is what we want to understand about 20 square feet, and we're going to get into that a little bit deeper. But the real understanding that we need to have is what's going to deliver the experience you're looking for is behavior. It's the behavior of the people in this room, the behavior of the people in the stores, and how we manage that behavior is going to be the difference maker. Let me see if I can click on this. Outstanding. And that behavior is going to, how do we get that consistent across every store? How do we make sure that we deliver a consistent experience? And that's going to come through our culture. And we're going to talk about extensively the culture that we build, the Jennifer experience, and how we get to that point. But it's all going to come from behavior. And I'll start off here. Oh, maybe I won't. I will start off here. There you go. That's me, in case you guys missed me down here. What we're going to start off with is, honestly, the performance pathway. And we talked about this last time. And the reason that I really want to start here is this is the fundamental. This is where this whole Jennifer experience starts. It starts with leaders creating culture. Leaders create the culture that's going to drive the behavior to produce the results we want. If the result is that Jennifer experience, what does that come from if we work backwards? It's an open screen test. I don't lie. Where do results come from directly? Okay. Let's start off on a better note. This is the interactive experience part of the evening or morning. I want to make sure that we're all talking to each other. And the idea is that those results are going to come directly from the behavior of our people, the people in this room and the people in the stores. To get that behavior, what do we have to do in the store? We're going to motivate them. There's motivation as a part of it. What else? Educate them. Let them know what that experience is. Tell them what needs to happen. We're going to create the culture. How many people have heard the word culture ad nauseum over the last year? 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's a buzzword now. And the ironic thing is, if I ask this room what culture is, I'm going to get, however many people in here there are, different answers. Different examples of what culture is. It's a feeling. It's a something. No, culture's not fuzzy. Culture by no means is a fuzzy, blurry item. Culture is very hard and fast. As we as an organization believe in these things. These are our hard and fast beliefs. And if we believe these things, we will behave a certain way. And when we behave that way, we deliver a certain experience. And that's what culture is. Actual culture versus stated culture. How many times do we say that we're going to have this Jennifer experience and we have to coach folks because they're not delivering it? And if culture is those rules of the road that deliver behavior, are there rules on the highway? Are there speed limits on the highway? Does everyone here follow the speed limits on the highway? And the reason is that we can set these standards, but if someone is not there to enforce and to create those standards and hold them, no one's going to follow them. And that's the leadership role. And last time we talked about leadership, we talked about earning that trust. We talked about earning the right to lead people, earning their trust so that we can challenge them and push them forward. Well, now we're going to talk about how we build culture and how we build the behaviors into everyday life so that people actually execute. And as you look at this, that's leaders create culture. Do you see that flywheel effect around culture and behavior? Now, my bosses are very highbrow, and they use really highbrow movies like Remember the Titans and really strong movies. I'm ridiculous and have no sense of reality. So I use the movie Big. Anybody remember that? Tom Hanks? Do you remember in the movie Big when Tom Hanks gets the job at the toy store and he goes in and he's typing away? And Lyle Lovett gets up over top of the wall and he looks down at everybody and he looks down at Tom Hanks, and what does he say to him? Slow down, you're making us look bad. Just so you know, that's culture too. That happens. That happens for real in your stores, in your spaces. People are actually executing and creating culture without direction. So the idea of creating the Jennifer experience is we don't have people doing culture by default. We have people creating culture by design. That idea being that we are creating the culture with purpose. We're actually telling people this is how I want you to deliver the experience, and then we hold the line on it. And when I talk about culture, I want to take you one more route. Does this happen in your home? Do you create the standards in your home? How many people as a parent have ever heard the phrase, pick your battles, right? I don't want to pick a battle I can't win. Now, maybe it's my military background. Maybe it's the fact that I'm a little insane. But when you set a standard in your home, you have to hold the line, or what do your children do? They're going to push you around and keep pushing it. So I'll just give you my personal example. I set a standard in my home. How many people don't like it when their kids run around with their shoes untied? Come on, where are my safety people? Come on. Shoes untied. Makes me nuts. Makes me absolutely crazy. So who hates to see their children's shoes tied in the closet? Because you know what they did, right? They ripped their little grubby paws out of those shoes. What are they going to do when they go put them back on? They're going to jam their grubby little paws back into those shoes. Well, it was making me crazy. And as I thought about it, being the crazy person that I am, I set a standard in my home. I said, hey, buddy, every time I catch you with your shoes untied, you have to stop what you're doing and tie each shoe 25 times, and I'm going to watch. Now, a lot of parents said, who wants to punish themselves that way? I told you, I'm not quite right in the head. So I set the standard. I also told him, every time I catch your shoes in the closet tied, you have to stop and untie and tie each shoe 25 times. Now, that seems ludicrous. It probably is. But I set a standard in my home, and guess what happened the next day? I go outside, and my son's playing with the neighbor kids, and his shoe's untied. And I go, buddy, come on over. And he stood there, he goes, what do you want, Dad? I go, start tying. He goes, you meant that? I said, oh yeah. So after he grumbled and fussed and threw a fit about tying his shoes, he went back to play. A couple weeks later, all-star baseball game, right? He's getting to play, he's excited, and we showed up for the all-star baseball game. As we're getting ready to leave the house, as he's getting his cleats on, guess what I noticed in the closet? Shoes were tied. Well, guess we're going to be late because you got 25 times the shoe. He goes, but Dad, we'll be late. And I said, nope, we're going to tie them. If you're going to make a standard in your home or in your business, you have to be willing to fight for it. Now, let me ask you this. How many times since those 2 days have I ever had to tell that child to tie his shoes again or untie his shoes? 0. And the reason is when you hold the line on culture and you truly lead it with some passion and some energy, it has the effect of changing behavior. If we want to get the Jennifer experience, you have to challenge and hold the line and say, no, this is how we deliver. I want to show you, I want to teach you, and I'm going to hold the line on it. And for me, nowadays, when I go out in the backyard, I even have the neighbor kids going, hey, buddy, tie your shoes, your dad's coming. Culture works, right? I've created a culture in the neighborhood. But it was all about you holding the standard. And there's a lot of folks that don't hold the line. How many people have heard someone threaten their kids with a punishment, threaten them with a penalty for something, and their kid just keeps doing it? No penalty, no punishment. And eventually, you're raising feral kids, right? They're like cats. And the idea that you have to hold that standard. Now maybe I'm a little uptight and I can understand that, but when you hold that cultural standard, you get the results from it. And that's the same thing we're looking at. Maybe not as harsh as tying the shoes, but the idea of holding that cultural standard is going to be really important in delivering that Jennifer experience across the brand, is that the people in the stores have to be willing to fight for it. Because people will resist, won't they? Do people resist culture? Do people resist change? Who's experienced going into a store that's having change right now and people are fighting it? And that requires leadership, real leadership. But what is leadership? We talked about it a little bit. Leadership is not a title. You can have a title and not be a leader. We've all experienced it. Someone that had a leadership title and you went, I wouldn't follow you to lunch. The title doesn't mean anything. It's influence. So becoming that influencer that you have earned the right to lead, you become a leader in that culture. Are there people in your stores that don't have a title but are leading the culture? For good or for bad, they are leading the culture in that store. And that's what we need to realize. We need to manage the influencers and allow them to actually drive this experience and build a culture of people owning their 20 square feet, of owning their piece of the puzzle. And then we want people to understand that you are valuable. Every person in that store, every person in this room is valuable in their 20 square feet. And the impacts of their 20 square feet ripple across the whole brand. How many people in your store have to have a bad day for everybody to have a bad day? One. The idea is one. That's all it takes. So the performance pathway exists. Oh, I'm going to hit the wrong button here all day. This is the purpose of the performance pathway. The purpose here is to align people, to get people going the same direction. We've all worked, when you run into work and you've worked in that bottom section. Has anybody worked in that? We'll call that company B. Has anybody worked in company B? Where it's chaos? You got folks that are going different directions. You got folks that are fighting each other every day. You've got folks that I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's not work. And how do you feel at the end of that day when you have worked so exhausted and you look around and go, man, I'm tired. But if I asked you what you did that day, half of you go, I have no idea what I did today. I'm just really, really tired and I worked really, really hard. But give me in a moment, that company A up on top with those aligned arrows, have you had that day? Just give me one in your life. You had one day where everybody was aligned for purpose, the stars were aligned, and everything was perfect. What does that experience of alignment feel like? What's that? It's exciting. Do you feel energized? When you get done with the day, are you fired up to do more stuff? Alignment makes life function better. And when everybody's pulling the same direction, that's great. And the reality is, I don't need everybody to be robots to do it. If you look at this slide, this is, I want you to be you, but align with us. Be yourself, be unique, be creative, but be going the same direction I'm going. And when you look at that, that gives people that freedom to be themselves and be unique. I just need you to make sure you're pulling the same direction. We're all giving the Jennifer experience. We're all actually living this culture. Because a lot of people are going to fight if you just tell them to be robots, won't they? Now, if you go back and you look at that slide and you say, this is a little trickier. If you look at that, if you bring the Jennifer experience to a store that hasn't started really delivering it yet, and it falls on that bottom set of arrows, what's your chance of getting it? What is the chance of that store, that location, delivering the experience we're trying to give everybody? It's slim to none, right? And slim left town. On that top arrow, what's the chances? What's the chances if you bring to a store that's aligned like that, you bring them change, you bring them something new, what do they do with it? They get fired up and they crush it. They go out there and they do great things with it. You may have a store that's got aligned people, but they're not in the best situation. But what are those aligned people doing in that not so great situation? They're elevating it. That's the idea, that in that situation, if we have aligned people, they'll make the situation better. And what aligns people? Their behavior, how they spend their day. And we talk about this a lot. How you spend your time is the difference maker. It's the difference maker in the business, it's the difference maker in your personal life, it's the difference maker everywhere. But right now, in the United States, we are living in a mountain of average. We've all heard of 10-80-10? Okay, everybody's heard of the bell curve. That exists too. But with 10-80-10, what we're looking at is 10% of your folks are knocking it out of the park. They are top performers. They are doing exceptional work. 80% are being marginal. They're okay. They're doing what's expected of them, but nothing out of the ordinary. And then you have that bottom 10% that are dragging feet and are actually a negative on the business, a negative in the store. They're costing you money in the long run. Let me ask you this. What do you expect of those top 10% of performers? Your top people in your department, wherever you work, if you're one of those top 10%ers in this room, what do we expect of people who are doing great? Give me more. And if not give me more, what I'm going to ask you is you have to at least maintain this performance. You have to at least maintain, I know what you're capable of. Well, what do I expect of my average person? They're meeting the metric. Let's skip down a little bit. What do we expect of the bottom percent, the bottom 10%? Oh, everybody always says that. Everybody says nothing. I expect nothing of you. Oh no, I have huge expectations on you. You either got to get better or get out. But nobody rides for free, right? It's get better or get out, and there's pressure. So would you say there's pressure at the top and pressure at the bottom? Now, again, I'm going to ask, what do we expect of that middle 80%? If you could just keep breathing for a little bit longer, at least I got somebody in the store today. Woo! And the reality is that's how we look at them. You're meeting the metric, you're not messing me up, but you're not helping me, you're just here. And a lot of people will look to me and say, well, we need those average folks, we need those people who do that, we need those people who just fill the space, we need that. And they go, well, what am I coaching to? I don't coach to average. You can fall out of your bed, first thing in the morning, boom, you're average. Do you need my help to be average? You don't need anything to be average, you just have to be alive. And the idea is if we're going to bring elite, what's the difference between your top performers and your average folks? Are they just so talented? No. Talent is not even important in this situation for performance. When I'm looking at this, your top 10%, what puts them there in that top 10% is their behavior. It is how they spend their time. Are they diligent on safety things? Are they diligent on managing the shrink? Are they diligent on doing all the day-to-day activities that make them good at their job? And it's behavior that does it. But if I take two people who are both okay employees, and I'm trying to compare them, how do I know who's better? The one that outbehaves the other one. It's behavior. The one that delivers the experience we're looking for is behaving it. Our goal is to try to push as many people out of that mountain of average into that elite type of performance for them. Why do people not want to go? Why do we struggle getting that mediocre performer to elevate? What do you think is a good reason?
Well,
what's that?
you talked about the top and bottom having pressure, so now you're going into a pressure situation.
Yeah, it's easy in the middle. It's easy, right? What happens when you leave? When you start doing more work, harder work, and performing at a rock star level, what do people do to you that are in the mountain of average? They resent you. What else do they do to you? You're a kiss up, you're a suck up. There's a reason. They give you a name, they title you, they give you any kind of pressure. Why would I hold back someone from being exceptional? Because you're showing that it's possible. And I don't want that kind of pressure. My life's nice and comfy and cozy. There are a whole lot of folks that work in your stores that are maybe even in this room, just by the law of averages, that have worked really hard to be mediocre. Whew, average, nailed it. And they got there and they don't want to have any pressure that changes it. They don't want to have someone that rips them out of there. And it's attractive to stay in the middle. Now, when I was in the SEAL teams, we used to go on these long runs in the mornings, which was awful. No one should ever do those. But in the morning, we used to have this argument, and I'd hear the people speaking, and they would say, hey, just be the gray man. Be the gray man. And I was like, what do you mean be the gray man? And it took me a while to understand it. The gray man is that person that is capable of exceptional performance, but stays back for comfort. Because in the SEAL teams, if you get up front, guess what? You have the attention of the instructor. That's bad. And if you fall behind, you end up in what we call the goon squad. Getting gooned is an exceptionally fun experience. That means at the end of the run, you get to spend another 30 minutes with the instructors. Seems so much fun. 30 minutes more exercise because you ran too slow. What happens to the folks that landed in the middle and finished there? Nothing. Why do you think people want to be gray? Because they can hide. I want to challenge you as leaders in this room to find those people who are the gray man and woman and challenge them to move out of gray. Be colorful. Go push forward. Either way, show me what you're made of, but don't sit there. Don't be scared that the mountain of average is going to pull you back. Be excited to own your 20 square feet and crush forward. That's the goal here. I use this a lot, and I'm just going to kind of mention it quickly, is there's an upside and a downside to elite performance, isn't there? The upside of elite performance is people recognize you. There's recognition at work. There's more money. There's more opportunity. This is the most technical slide you could possibly put on a screen. Very hard to draw. But the simplicity of it makes sense. Upside of elite, more money, more opportunity, more chances to succeed. Self-fulfillment, I feel like I'm doing good. What's the downside of elite? You're alone. You are socially not as acceptable because you're not doing what everybody else is doing. There's a lot of pressure. It's exhausting. It's a lot of time. But there's an upside to being average, isn't there? I'm part of the crowd, right? I can meld in. If I make a mistake, nobody even notices it. If my store's performance isn't great, nobody even sees it because I'm in the mountain of average. I'm hiding. It's awesome. Low pressure. But what's the downside to being average? No one knows who I am. I am replaceable. I don't have the job satisfaction. And then there's dissatisfaction in general. That is an extremely important thing to understand. So the upside of average is emotional. The downside of elite is also emotional, which is why people choose to stay in the average. We've got to push people out of there. I'll skip that one. What does that? What pushes people out of that mountain of average? What's going to get you out of there? Motivation? Drive? It's going to take leadership. Leadership in this room to challenge people to do something different. Did anybody wake up today and go, I'm going to be the most average employee the company's ever seen? No? Nobody's like, yeah, nailed it, got it again. Whew. This is where we're going to start. We're going to start here understanding that as an organization, as a company, big picture, you have a culture and strategy. And there's a lot of folks in the stores, as we bring the Jennifer experience to them, are going to say culture and strategy is being done to me. It may be dictated from the top, but where is it executed? Where is the culture of the organization, the culture of the business actually executed? It's an open screen test. I don't lie. 20 square feet at a time. The 20 square feet of a business is the actual Jennifer experience. What delivers the Jennifer experience? Somebody tell me. People doing what? What are they doing to deliver it? I want you to be specific. What gives that experience? Customer service. Keeping the environment clean and nice looking, right? It's the actual experience that I'm going to deliver. And that comes out of my 20 square feet. But what also lives in my 20 square feet? What lives there? My personal beliefs and behaviors. When you hire me, you get my baggage. The good news is my baggage matches, it's nice. But my beliefs and my behaviors are mine. No matter how old you are, you built that person. You've built it over time. And what you believe and how you behave is very, very personal. It is not private. What you believe and how you behave is experienced by everyone in this room, by your customers, and by everyone that comes in and out of that store. Your 20 square feet does not happen in a vacuum. Your 20 square feet happens amongst everybody else. We talk about culture, and we talk about trying to change culture, and we talk about what the obligation is. Everybody's got a favorite restaurant, a favorite place they like to go in this world. And you only have to go there one time with a bad server, and what do you say about the whole place? This place is terrible. I ain't going back. You experienced one person out of maybe hundreds, but that was the experience they took away. If I go into one of your stores and my experience with that one person in there 20 square feet is terrible and I didn't get the Jennifer experience, then the experience I got was them, and that represents all of you. I fly all over the country. If I fly into another state and my experience with you in Ohio is bad, guess what my experience in California is going to be assumed? Social media, people getting out there. Now that we were talking about that a little bit ago, I was listening. With social media, if I have an experience, it's no longer local. It's no longer, I have a bad problem here. The 20 square feet of this person was terrible. Oh no, now I'm going to label the company. And you talk about those influencers, those people who can reach out and they can influence others. If their experience of 20 square feet isn't good, they multiply. Used to be back in the sales days when I worked for ADP, working for the payroll company way back out of college. They used to teach you, like, you don't lose clients by the ones, you lose them by the tens. And that's what's happening now. It's multiplied even bigger because of social media. How important is the 20 square feet of each individual in this organization? From the person who's stocking things in the back, and I got an opportunity to walk into the back in Polaris and take a look, and I realized with all the stuff there, how much danger is there back there? To use the old Navy phrase, and maybe an Army phrase, I'm not going to give Army people any credit wherever you're at. Nobody outranks safety. Nobody. And the reason that we always said that in the teams was there's very often a high-ranking person dies because they weren't paying attention to safety. And when you look at that, that's people managing their 20 square feet. And we do a lot of things physically to try to eliminate some of the risk. I'm an ORM person from the Navy, so I do a lot of that. We try to eliminate the risk through physical things. What are some of the physical things we do to make sure that we can manage someone's 20 square feet, take some of the risk out of their 20 square feet? The entryways are different. Floors are smoothed out. Trying to eliminate some of the slip, trips, and falls, all those different things. And when we look at that, we're doing those things, but ultimately, what's going to decide whether people are safe? Their behavior. Why do you think it is so challenging to convince people to deliver the experience we're trying to deliver? Because when you look up there, you see that's my personal 20 square feet. Those are my beliefs, my behaviors. And you're asking me to act not contrary to, but different than what I believe and how I behave. So it has to be, your culture has to be clear, concise, and compelling. The reason I want you to do this is because it delivers an experience, and if you do it, your store, your department, will thrive. If a combination of all the stores in the departments thrives, guess what? The company thrives. But it all hinges on the 20 square feet of what? One person. I'll give you an example. This is one of my favorite stories, and I learned this from the Columbus Metro Library. I use it everywhere because I think it was the most exceptional story of a manager demonstrating to someone else how important they were. The manager at the library, she took colored note cards. She took these note cards and she wrote down the different jobs that that person does. Everybody got their own colored cards. Wrote down the jobs that they do. And then she handed it to them and said, I want you to walk around the library and place these cards where you do the work. So every employee went around and did that. At the end, she had everybody together. She goes, wow, look at how much your 20 square feet spreads out. Then she looked at one person and said, go pick your cards up. You didn't come to work today. So they went out. They picked up all their cards. And that seemed easy enough until she turned to her and said, now, give your cards to who's responsible for doing the work. All of a sudden, it got quiet in the room. Because she had to walk up to her coworkers, some of them her friends, and say, hey, here's more work for you. Here's more work for you. Here's more work for you. And at the end, she had about 4 or 5 cards left in her hands. And her manager said, well, what are those? She said, nobody knows how to do this but me. That's how powerful your 20 square feet is. When you don't carry your weight, someone else has to carry it or things don't get done. What a great representation to show, instead of just talking it, she handed it to him. It was physical. I could see. These things don't happen. These people are burdened by my behavior. The behavior of your 20 square feet is extremely valuable. It's valuable in your home. It's valuable at work and delivering any kind of experience. We have to become masterful at operating in our 20 square feet. The hard part is, every person that works for us has their own beliefs and behaviors, and we are trying to convince them with clear, concise, compelling culture, this is what we need to do to be successful. Now, when we look at this and we think about how we get people to do, there's a couple realities I want you to understand. Reality number one is your job skills are going to be lifted up or lowered down by your behavioral skills. And when we talk about job skills and behavioral skills, what are we really talking about? Well, where would I find your job skills? Where would I find those skills that you got hired for? It's a document. I'll give you a hint. It's on your resume, right? How many of you put in, I sleep in on Mondays because I love Sunday Night Football? You didn't put it on there? How many people put down on their resume, I really dislike conflict, I avoid it? No, we wouldn't put that on there? Anybody put on there, I hate other people? Just people in general, yeah. And the ironic thing is the things that make you successful, I'm a really poor communicator. I don't listen very well. No one puts that on their resume because you wouldn't get hired. We put the technical skill. What technical skills you put? It's like, oh, I'm very good at operating this system, the software system. I'm really good at my experiences at other businesses. We put down the job skills. We hire for job skills. What do you fire everybody for? Almost 90%. What do you let them go for? Is it because they just couldn't hack it in the job? Or is it because they couldn't behave? They couldn't do the behaviors necessary to be successful. There are a lot of folks out there who technically are exceptionally proficient. They are technical masters. But if you had to spend more than 5 minutes with them, you'd chew your arm off out of a bear trap. You're like, no, I can't take them. Not one more minute. And the reason you can't stand them isn't because, wow, you're just so overly technical. It's the fact that when they speak and when they act, they're abrasive. They don't listen. They interrupt. They're not on time. And when we talk about job skills and behavioral skills, I hope, how many millennials do I have before I go down this rabbit hole? Okay. Hey, at least one proud person. Hey, don't worry, I'm about to be on your side. I'm there for you. What do we say about millennials? Look at this, job skills, behavioral skills. Come on, what's some of the stuff we say about millennials? Give me the dirt.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Lazy, short attention span, everybody gets a trophy. Guess what? Ha, joke's on you, they can't give themselves trophies. You did that. And when we look at the bigger picture, we look at millennials and we say, oh, they've got problems with this, and they're entitled, and they're all this stuff. I'm going to give you guys the business. You ready? They're young. And you were young too at one point. And guess what? The only reason you still have a job today is there was no social media back then. The only reason you're not in jail is there was no Facebook. And in the big picture, you're sitting there tearing apart youth for being youthful. Guess what they did the generation before you? Told you were messed up. This generation's going to wreck this place. And the generation before that, what do we say? Oh, this generation's going to wreck this place. Back when I was a kid, I went to school in the snow, barefoot, uphill, both ways. I was a machine. It's like going into SEAL training. Every SEAL class looks back and goes, I was the last hard buds class. The rest of them have it easy. No, it's terrible for everybody. The irony is we look at young people and we say, oh, they're just a mess. They're entitled. Guess what? So are you in some way, shape, or form. It's not entitlement. It's they don't understand the workforce yet because they haven't been in it yet. And those that are the latter millennials that have been in it for a while probably don't behave that way. But we lump them all into one big chunk and say, you're all messed up. They have the job skills. Do they not? Do they come in with the technical ability to do the job? If you want the behavioral skills, what do you have to do with them? Teach them. I'm going to give credit to where credit's due. Columbus Equipment Company is a really phenomenal organization, and their founder in 1962 was doing a speech in Chicago. And one of the lines that he had in there, I will repeat everywhere I go. He said, you know, in a world in sales and what we're doing in service for heavy equipment, you need a person who is intelligent, someone who's crafty, who's smart, who's energetic. And he goes, where do we find these people? He goes, you don't, you make them. It was the most genius thing I'd ever seen. It's like, don't ask for an employee to show up on your lap that's perfect. Teach them. Teach them what you expect of them. And what you're teaching them is probably not job skills. You need to teach them the behavioral skills. I expect you to be here at this time. I expect you to do these things. My expectations for your performance, how to deliver the Jennifer experience. If you teach them, they will do it. But if you don't teach them, don't complain about them. That's your fault. And I'm not trying to point fingers, but a lot of people don't want to invest the time. And what do we say about behavioral skills? We look at these young people and say, their mom and dad should have taught them that. They should have learned that in school. Well, guess what? If someone shows up on your doorstep and you hire them, you now have an obligation to teach them the behavioral skills to deliver the Jennifer experience and be successful here. Because if you don't, what are you going to get? You're going to get average. They're going to do what they want to do. And then what's ironic is you're going to be mad they did what they want to do. Well, you never coached them on what you wanted them to do. There's the problem. We have to invest the time in people, just like they said at Columbus Equipment. They said, you know what? You're not going to find these people. They don't just miraculously show up. You have to build them. You have to teach them. You have to coach them. And that's how we're going to do it. Most companies spend a lion's share of their training dollars where? Look at those two things. Where do you spend the lion's share of training dollars? Job skills. Yet you just told me you fire 90% of people for behavioral. What's more expensive, hiring somebody or keeping somebody? Hiring. Because what happens is you get a turnover position, you're constantly churning through. Let's teach them the behavioral skills so we can keep the talent we already have. Let's keep the people we've got and elevate them. So job skills and behavioral skills. And just so you know, that person that you would chew your arm off out of a bear trap, if you don't know who that person is, it's you. All right. Now, we talk about how is this organization going to grow? And right now, you're talking about growth. What I heard in the speaker before me was just the growth of the organization. New locations, improving the locations, growth, growth, growth. That's amazing, and that's a great thing. But if as an organization you're going to grow and you're going to start everybody delivering that Jennifer experience, that's going to require everybody to go on the journey. Everybody's got to go. And the change in an organization doesn't happen at the top. If I change the name of this company to Scott Lots tomorrow, is anything really changed in the company other than the logo? No, it's just a name. Change happens when people change. When behavior of the folks in the stores changes. If the Jennifer experience involves people to change how they do things day in and day out, it's not going to happen until it happens in the folks. Just remember, if something's not happening in you, it sure as heck ain't happening through you. You have to be doing it. You have to be delivering that experience. But when we look at personal growth driving organizational growth, do we get resistors? I mean, you know the folks who say, I've been in this business for 30 years, and the way I got here, I didn't need none of that fancy technology. They stick their feet in the sand, and they go, I'm not going. And do you know how we've taught people to resist us? How do we teach our employees to be resistant? We let them. You allowed the resistance to happen. Instead of saying, this is the standard, you will either meet my standard or you won't be here. I know it's a rough thing to say to people, but this is the standard. And at some point or other in their career, someone allowed them to resist and to build the resistance. Instead of saying, no, this is the rule. Sorry, you're tying your shoes 25 times. No one held the line. Someone tried to pick their battles, and they lost all of them. The idea is that if we're going to grow, those resistors have to be told, this is our clear, concise, compelling culture. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. And you know what? I am more dedicated to being positive and driving this culture than you are to resisting. And when we get to that point, if you look at me and say, you challenging me like that makes me uncomfortable. I hate to quote Jocko. I really don't like to, but I'm going to. Good. If me challenging you to live our culture makes you uncomfortable, and me being positive makes you feel like it's not fair, good, because I'm going to drive our culture no matter what. Is anybody here going to suddenly go back to their store and go, well, you know, I don't really feel like doing Jennifer anymore. I'm good. No? But you have to be dedicated enough to make sure that when the resistor shows up, you are steadfast. I will fight for this culture longer than you will. I will outlast you. And the truth is, when we build this culture for growth, I want people to self-select. How does the SEAL teams get the best folks? They self-select. This job's not for everybody. If I've heard that once, I've heard it a million times. I want to build a culture that if this isn't for you, great, self-select out. I'm good with that. What's the worst thing can happen in this business is someone that doesn't want to live your culture and they do what? They stay. Good Lord, don't stay. You're awful. I want you to commit to our culture and live in it. The worst thing can happen is that you won't leave. I want you to self-select. So I have to be so powerful in my culture to build it up so much that you self-select in. And there's some folks that came here from other companies. Why did you come to here? Why did you come to Big Lots? Why did you come here? Because I wanted to be a part of this. They have a culture and a group of folks here, and as far as asset protection, a great group of folks. I want to be a part of that. And there's some folks that you guys were too much for them. Were you not? The demands, the challenges you put on them was too much for them. Has anybody seen that? That's okay, because our growth is going to come person by person, and if you don't want to go on the journey, then don't go. That's fine. Just make a choice. No one gets to hang out. I was told I'm going to give you guys a break, so I'm just trying to meter this thing out here. All right. So I'll do this, and then we'll take that 5-minute break, because I know 5 minutes turns into 10 turns into something else, so we're going to start with a 5-minute break. Discipline-driven versus default-driven behavior. We talked about those two realities, right? Job skills are driven by behavioral skills. Personal growth, each individual choosing is going to make the whole organization grow. And right now, I want you to understand that this is the other reality. Every one of you wakes up every day with this option, discipline versus default. If you've got something to write with right now, I want you to write down in front of you one thing you've accomplished in your life that you're proud of, and you cannot put down your family. That's a no-no. It's low-hanging fruit. Something you accomplished you're proud of. Some of you are like, I wasn't going to write family. Something you did. You made it happen. Now, as you're writing that, I'm going to describe these two behaviors. Discipline versus default is not good person, bad person. It's not great employee, bad employee. It's the best version of you versus the lesser version of you. And every day we choose. Every day you get the option. And I'll bet every day you have a default moment and you have a bunch of discipline moments. That's just the reality of it. The difference here is, do I stop for a cheeseburger or do I go home and cook? Do I get my lazy behind out of bed and work out in the morning, or do I go, snooze? Do I actually have this fight with my spouse over nothing important? Or do I decide, you know what, that's not the disciplined thing to do, I'm not going to do that? And the reality is, this is the fight in life. Discipline-driven behavior is intentional, on purpose, and skillful. When I am intentional with my behavior, very simply put, pay attention to what I'm doing. I am disciplined. And when I am disciplined, I am on top of things. Now, I used to live in Virginia Beach. And 4 or 5 times a year, I would drive to Columbus, Ohio for holidays and other events. And during that drive, somehow the state of West Virginia disappeared. Not sure how I forgot West Virginia. It's kind of dangerous. But how many people gotten in their car to drive to work, showed up in the parking lot and went, I don't remember driving here. I like how everybody's acting like, no, I never do that. Liars. The truth is, we all have those moments. We weren't intentional with our behavior. I got behind the wheel, I was in traffic, I zoned out, I was just doing my thing. Are you intentional behind the wheel of a car? And that's the idea, is intentionality is paying attention to what you're doing. Purposeful behavior. What does it mean to have a purpose? What's that? Motivation. It's your motivation, it's your reason why, it's that thing inside you that makes you go. And without it, what happens? I'll tell you my experience in the SEAL teams. You sit in the cold water and your core body temperature's dropping. If you forget why you're there, you're out. You will quit in a heartbeat. I've been awake for 5 days. I'm tired. I'm done. If you can't manage your why, you'll quit. Then you come down to skillful. if intent is pay attention to what you're doing, purpose is pay attention to why you're doing it. Let me take you back to 3rd grade. What do you think skillful is? What, why, and how. Are you applying yourself every day? My mother on a regular basis used to tell me, Scott, you're just not applying yourself. The idea is sometimes people see that we're not using all our facilities, we're not using all our skills. Now, when I look at that, intentional, on purpose, and skillful, you look down to that thing you wrote down that you are proud of. What did you have to do to get it? I had to pay attention to what I was doing. I had to remember my why, and I had to apply myself every day. You're proud of it, right? So pride comes from what? What does your pride come from? I just had this talk with my son this morning. Where do you find pride in your life? Open screen test, it's the top one, just in case. When you are disciplined, you are proud of it. If any of you won the lottery, I guarantee you would be happy. But I guarantee you would also not go, I'm so proud. I'm the best number player there is on planet Earth. I'm pretty sure that auto lotto knew it was me. I'm that doggone good. The reality is, everything you are proud of in your life. Now let me say I open that back up to your family. Why would you be proud of your family? Because you worked really hard to teach your kids to behave well. You applied yourself on a regular basis. You remembered your why when you were trying to coach and teach your kids. And when you look back at it and you say, wow, they're disciplined, and someone comes up to you and says, your child is so wonderful, how do you feel? It's pride, because I worked my butt off for that, because that little bugger was a pain. When someone tells me, your son helped me clean up the kitchen and everything else, I say, mine? Wait. Blonde kid, yay tall? Yeah, no. But the idea that when they are disciplined, you find pride in that. And we would all have everything we want. We would all have all the things that we desire. We would be proud of everything we have except for the existence of default, and it lives there. Everybody's got it. That default behavior will creep in on you when you least expect it. And it's impulsive, on autopilot, and resistant. And when I talk about being impulsive, what drives an impulsive person, right? It's that emotion, that passion of the moment. Impulsive people make all their decisions based on how they feel. And how you feel in any given moment, is that a good guide for you? How many of you make good impulsive decisions? Wow, I'm so glad I yelled at my wife. That went so well. Things have improved. No. How many people look at impulsiveness and say, that's why they put the candy bars at the end of the grocery aisle, because I'm emotionally starving. Impulse, it grabs us. And it's, just so you know, it's default emotion. It's the one in the moment. Because are there emotions that are good? Oh yeah, love for your family. Even the love for your coworkers, those feelings, the emotions, hey, that's okay. I chose those. But the one that chose me and I didn't get to pick, I want to avoid that one like the plague. And I think about this. I worked with American Electric Power, and they were talking to linemen and the truck drivers, right? And they said, well, driving a truck, they were just doing every day they start with a safety talk, every day. And in their safety talk, they said, well, it's deer season. And we know where I'm going with this, right? And they were talking about safety. And they said, the impulse when a deer jumps in the road is to what? Swerve. Guess how most of those accidents happen in those trucks? Swerving. The impulse tells you, save the animal, avoid dying, swerve. The discipline in you says, run that sucker over. Because it's the safest thing for you in that vehicle, is to go right straight through it. And the idea is sometimes impulse grabs us, and it makes us do things that hurt us. How many people, we were talking about it in the back of that store in Polaris, they see something heavy in that back stock area, and it starts to fall. The impulse in you tells you to do what? Reach out and catch it. How do most of the injuries happen? Reaching out and catching it. Impulse causes a large number of these injuries, is the impulse to do something you shouldn't do. On autopilot, that's habitual. This is the way I've always done it. And if you ever let those words come out of your face, I am no longer your friend. I hate that. Well, that's the way we've always done it. Yeah, we all used to come here in a horse and buggy too. But nobody did that today. Autopilot behavior is the choice of the old habit. We've hired people from other stores. They come with other experiences, other customer service experiences. And those are other habits they built somewhere else. And when I have that habit, you're challenging me to do something different. But guess what? When I have a difficult customer or I have someone who I'm maybe not comfortable with, what will I revert back to? An old habit that may not be as productive as what you want me to do. But I'll do it because it's easy. It's easy. I can do it 100 times and always get a result. It's not a great result, but I'll do it anyways. And that pull of old habits keeps us from moving forward. Now, the last one is resistance. When I talk about what drives a resistant person, the thing that drives a resistant person is default comfort. I will do anything to stay in my comfort zone. And my comfort, if I'm a leader in this room that says I am driven by resistance and I am driven by my comfort, will choose their comfort over the benefit of the person they're coaching. They will choose their comfort over their own success. I will choose my comfort over the store's success. I will choose my comfort over everything. It's like standing on the Titanic. It's going down. I could jump in a lifeboat, but that looks uncomfortable, so I'm going to stand here and play the violin the whole way down. Do not be driven by resistance. Resistant people, they just can't get out of their own way. Now, if I look at that, impulse, autopilot, and resistance, that is the default thing in the moment, and it grabs us. And when I look at discipline and default, let me bring this back to something that we're all familiar with. Is anybody, now, I have put on a couple pounds in the last year, you might have noticed. No? Okay. So, since last you saw me, I think about the weight loss journey, and I say, how many people are confused about how weight loss works? The concept, not actually doing it. Eat these foods are good for you. Those foods are bad for you. Exercise is good for you. Sedentary lifestyle, bad for you. Now that I just laid out the secret of success, is anybody shocked? No. Discipline is hard. Default is easy. Why do you think the fitness, gadget, pill, workout thing industry is worth bazillions of dollars? They are selling you easy. They are selling you the easy road out, the impulse. Why do you think they put a 20-year-old guy or girl that's never even known a carb in their life, doesn't believe in gluten, that is shredded, and they're on a little twisty thing? Like Tommy Boy workout, I'm not sure what that is. But when you see them on that twisty thing, a small part of you goes, man, I don't look like that. What are they trying to get you to do? I want you emotionally to feel bad about you and buy this product. What are they selling you with autopilot? You know what? You deserve to relax and eat any food you want. Take this pill and you can eat it all. Anybody believe that, Hui? But they're selling a bunch of it. They're making a ton of money. They're telling you, keep doing the old habits that made you gain weight in the first place. You can lose weight just by taking this pill. Not going to work. Resistance, the comfort zone. You know what? You are too busy. 7-minute abs is way too much time. I'm going to sell you 5-minute abs. That's going to be the difference maker. It's insanity. It's insanity, but they make a ton of money because they're selling people the easy way out. And we buy it. Anybody here who's ever lost a pound, gotten into shape, done anything for themselves to get healthier, will tell you, you either do it with discipline or you don't do it at all. Because the other stuff does not last. We've got to be more disciplined. If you think about delivering the experience in the store, if somebody comes in and they act on impulse when a customer gets upset, are they going to deliver the Jennifer experience? If they act on autopilot, will they give it? For safety, if someone's just resistant getting out of their comfort zone and learning new things, are they going to be safe? It is a requirement that we are disciplined. How many people think the word discipline always sounded like punishment? We're going to have a discipline talk. Ooh. And the truth is, that's a hijacked version of it. The original discipline is it's a study, right? To be a student of something, to be a disciple. The discipline is your study. And when you look at that as the big picture, I'm going to work really hard because this is my discipline. Doctors have medicine as their discipline. Lawyers, legal work is their discipline. This is your discipline. Be disciplined at it. So we're going to take 5 minutes, because you guys kind of got roped right into me, and they said, make sure I work a break in. So 5 minutes, come on back, and we'll keep driving forward to elite behavior. All right, as we're all kind of filtering back in, I'll just start with, we talked about what does work, and that's owning your 20 square feet, right? It's taking ownership of the behaviors and the beliefs that you have, that are in you. And we talked about the access, that we both have access to either our disciplined self or our default self. So the definition of whether I am an elite employee, an average employee, a below average employee is simply how much time I spend on discipline and how much time I spend on default. Now, what do you guys think is the mother of all default behaviors? Open screen test, look, blink. There you go. Who can read the small print? Get the glasses out. All right. BCD. We will blame, complain, and defend our way through life. I want to ask you this. What do we blame other people for? We blame everybody on this planet but who? Because I'm perfect. The rest of you guys, yeah, I don't know. What do we complain about? Come on, what do you complain about? Hey, I'll be honest, in the SEAL teams, we used to say if you put 10 SEALs together and it's raining gold coins, somebody's going to complain about the noise. We find things to complain about, don't we? Complaints. What are we actually defending when we get defensive? Our very, very personal 20 square feet. So when I have a conversation with you and I'm going to talk about something you're doing at work, what am I actually addressing? Your beliefs and behaviors. Can you see how that can be something I might want to fight for? Because I built this me. And now you understand when BCD kicks in, I'm defending myself because this is the me I've built. But BCD creeps in, and just so you understand, when we look at BCD, BCD has no desire to solve a problem. BCD is simply for the sake of making noise. Because if I'm trying to solve a problem, it's not BCD, it's problem solving. I'm actually trying to come to a solution. So I have an easy metric for you, so if you get confused, is that if someone is BCDing to you, simple question, can I help you? If there's nothing I can contribute to your complaint, your blaming, your defending, even if that contribution is just, hey, I just need someone to hear me out so I can come to a solution, I might be willing to do that. But if there's nothing I can contribute to your situation, then why are you telling me? What do we like to BCD about? What are some of the hot topics in this environment? What do we like to BCD about? It's the good ones. What are they? What's that? Come on. I love that. That was not very brave. What do we BCD about? Our boss. Other people. We like to talk about people. We definitely don't like to talk to them. Because talking to them involves something. Emotion, and we're like, yeah, I don't want to get there. I'd rather just talk about you. It's safer that way. Complain about our situation. I'm going to do a little exercise with you because I think you need to understand how big of a problem this really is. BCD is the most expensive thing that happens in your business to personnel. The most expensive activity. If you think about BCD, complaining for 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, how many hours a day do you think the average employee does this? Give me a guess. How many hours a day? Two. You guys are mean. I always tell people, just give me one. Give me one. All right, so we'll go 1 hour because I'm more gentle than everybody else. 1 hour a day. How many people work for Big Lots? Total number. Everybody in the company. 34,000. Didn't see that one coming. 34,000, right? Who's got a calculator out? Come on, someone's got their Googler out. I know it. Their phone? That's what my son calls it, the Googler. Who's got their phone out? I need your calculator. You ready? 34,000 people, 1 hour a day. How many hours a day do we lose?
Good one.
All right. 34,000 hours a day. If you had to average what the pay is across the company, just from top to bottom, average it out, let's say, what's a good number? 20, 15, if we average everybody. We'll say 20 for math's sake. $20 an hour. How much did you lose in one day to BCD? 20 times 34,000. Come on, where's my calculator? I got one person. Who's my designated calculator? $680,000 went out the door in one day to BCD. That is unproductive time where you weren't working, you were complaining or blaming or defending. How many days a year do most people work? 300 and what? Give me a number. 200 and something? Sorry, 200 what? 260? 260 times that number. Somebody give me the math. I'm patient. Who's my mathematician? How much? $176 million. How much money did you save in shrink last year by improving your numbers? What was the number he said? Is it TJ? About 7 million? Peanuts. Peanuts to stopping people from doing BCD. That's an insane number. What'd you say again? 176? 176 million. Now, that was 1 hour a day. Now I'm going to come back to those of you who said 2. How many people complain by themselves? When I get angry, I walk into a corner and I go, man, I really hate this. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Nobody does that? So wait, misery. And since misery loves company, at the bare minimum, we're going to multiply that 176 million by 2. How much money did you lose last year to BCD? $352 million left this company to people standing around doing nothing but complaining about a situation they have no desire to fix. They just want to make noise. Now, shrink's big. Shrink's a big number. What if I could make people spend that time doing different things? Don't complain, walk the store. Don't blame somebody else. Choose to check the inventory on a regular basis. Don't defend yourself. Make better choices. What could we reduce the numbers next year or this year? 300-some million, right? 352 million. If I could just get a small peanut worth of reduction in BCD, I'd save more than you saved in shrink. This is why I tell you, and I don't try to make it, like it is blunt force trauma, I should be honest. It's like a sledgehammer to the temple. This is expensive, and it's happening, and you can't deny me that you see people doing it, right? You see people blaming, complaining, and defending. So by the power vested in me by the state of Ohio, and my mom, who still says I'm pretty, take this out of your life. You don't have to do this. It starts with you. And when I talk BCD, I have caught myself being negative, complaining about a situation. My kid plays Little League. And I stood there and I said, man, these other kids, and I was talking about the performance of other kids, which is very, very adult-like. And as I'm doing it, I caught myself, that's ridiculous, it's just BCD. I was like, they're just kids, they're playing baseball, let it go. And how many people can't do that? Who's got a kid that played Little League or is in Little League? And has heard said parents having those conversations? Oh yeah. How many people have sat at work, gone into a store, and maybe someone didn't know you were there yet? And you heard all of it going on. Anybody? Reality is we've got to get rid of this. First and foremost, take it out of your life. Choose not to do it. When you recognize yourself just blaming somebody else, complaining, or defending with no point of solving the problem, I need you to say to yourself, it's just BCD, I'm going to get back to doing something productive. Just shift your fire to something else. Shift fire to something productive. Get to where you're doing something that's good for the organization and good for yourself. That's the necessity. When does it get hard to remove BCD? When's it challenging to get rid of the BCD in your world? When it's coming from outside your 20 square feet. When it's not coming from me, it's coming from somebody else, and it's coming into my 20 square feet, it gets really hard to get rid of it, doesn't it? And there are some of you here who don't complain. You don't blame, you don't defend, but you're a sponge for it. People seek you out. they're like, oh, I got something to complain about. And they're looking around the office. They're like, they'll even ask other people, did you see Tom? Just a second. They'll go find Tom and go, Tom, let me tell you. And Tom's going, oh, they found me. The reality is, you sitting there listening to it and taking it is just as bad as contributing to it. You still lost the time. So how do we get it out of our 20 square feet? How do I look at you and say, hey, knock that crud off? I don't want to hear it. How do you say that? Do you just say it that way? For some people, that'll work. Now, there are some sensitive souls out there that may not work for. So we start with is what? How can I help you? Is there something I could do for you? What have you done to fix the situation? Have you talked to them about it? I'm going to direct people to the productive outcome and keep challenging them. Now, I work in schools and other places, and people say, well, if I tell people I don't want to listen, they're going to feel like I don't care. I was like, well, I didn't say don't listen. I said offer a solution. I was like, yeah, but they might be annoyed that I'm doing that. It's like, if it annoys you that I don't want to be around your BCD, good. Then I've accomplished my mission. My goal is I don't want to hear a lack of solution finding. My first platoon in the SEAL teams, I showed up and I came in to ask a question. And I was complaining about something not being the way it should be. And my chief looked me right in the eye and he said, you know what, Scott, he goes, I am the solutions department, not the complaint department. You might want to look elsewhere. Every time you come to my office, you best have a solution that comes with your problem, or at least an attempt. And if you're here to solve a problem, let that be known and we'll work on it. But do not just come to me and complain. Now, as you educate people on what BCD is, the language becomes familiar. When the language becomes familiar, you can even ask somebody, is this BCD or is this something I can help you with? Language unites groups. What do you think you're using the Jenny phrase for? So people can be coalesced around one concept. If you can get people to understand what BCD is, guess what? We don't do that around here. We're going to reduce shrink in a way that they've never seen before. We're going to be more productive. We're going to hit numbers that they've never seen before by just reducing the amount of time we spend wasting it. Safety is going to go up because people are more cognizant. They're not walking around head in the sky complaining. But that means you have to not accept BCD, and that's where it's challenging. Because there are probably places in this company, just like every other company on planet Earth, that BCD is the culture. The actual culture in that store, or maybe on that shift, or maybe in your office, you might find when you go in, you find this is just what we do. It's like a sport. It's almost as good as badminton. We come in and we think, who's got the worst story? Tell me about this. I've had companies, when they BCD, they talk about their customers. And I laugh hysterically. As if it wasn't for those stupid customers, we'd be great. Well, we kind of need them. But that's what we complain about. So we have to choose something different. We have to choose productivity over BCD. And that's got to happen. But that's going to require something. You've got to have a system. You have to have a system to see the situation as BCD. Many of us have a system, right? A system to start your car, a system to log onto your computer, a system to do just about everything in your life. What's your system for problem solving? Some people might have one. But if you don't have a system, what do you do when you are faced with something you've never seen before? What's your decision-making criteria? Most people just wing it. I don't know what to do, I'll try something. And kind of throw it to the breeze and see what happens, right? This is the system. The system to get people behaving, giving that experience you're looking for. And that is to see things clearly. Event plus response equals outcome is simply the way life works. I'll explain it. Events are going to happen. Things are going to happen in your life. There's no escaping it. From a door shutting on you when you didn't expect it to someone slamming on their brakes in front of your car. Events are coming. You will respond to those events, and it will produce some kind of outcome. Reality number one is you do not. Oh, well, I'm jumping the ship here. First thing you have to understand about E+R=O is I don't control events. This one gets people. Why do you think the thought of the mindset of I do not control events is so important? What's the biggest event you all deal with every day? Biggest E. Other people. People are the biggest event you deal with, from everything from parking to grabbing something to drink to excusing yourself to get around somebody. There are people events everywhere. How many of you control other people? No Jedi mind tricks here. We don't, and it makes us frustrated. How many of you folks have said these words? I just wish they would do this. And when you look at that and you realize you doing that doesn't change anything. Their behavior is their behavior. That E is yours to deal with. It's yours and yours alone at this point. The outcomes you are getting in your life, in your store, in your personal life, are all reflections. They are feedback on how good you're responding. And the only thing, I guess I could probably actually forward these slides, huh? The only thing you control in this scenario is how you choose to respond. How you choose to respond in that moment. That's up to you. And a lot of people will tell me, it's like, well, I just didn't have a choice. Yes, you did. You just didn't like the choices you had. You had choices. You didn't like them. You chose poorly. My other frustration is, when I look at this, E+R=O is simply the way life works. People will say, but I did everything right and I still lost. What does that tell you? What feedback does that give you about your R? You did everything right and still lost. That your R wasn't good enough yet. When I joined the SEAL teams, they told me, said, you know what, one of the big job perks is your job requirements would be, you should probably know how to swim. Now, all things considered, I had puddled around pools and ponds and other things, but when I joined the teams, at no point whatsoever had I ever swam a lap. Horrible decision making. Awful idea. But what I realized was I got in the pool the first day to do the test, 500-meter swim. And when I couldn't swim 50 meters, panic struck. That's when I went, you're already in the Navy. Oops. You already quit your job. Bigger whoops. And now as I looked at this, I said, you know what? That feedback of not being able to swim 50 meters just to get there was feedback that my R has not been good enough. And I had to change. I had to do something different. And when I realized that, I went out and I bought a book. And believe it or not, they used to sell a book called How to Do the Navy SEAL Side Stroke. Thank God there are writers out there. I bought the book. And I realized that I got to make some changes. My R has to get better. I need to respond better to this challenge. And I went to the pool every day. Every single day. And the first day I couldn't swim 50 meters. By the end of a week, I was all the way down to the end of the pool and thrilled to death, heaving like I had just ran a marathon. Swim back to the other end. Little victories, right? Until finally I just kept responding and I kept responding. Guess what? Life is a journey. It's multiple responses. You don't get to respond once and go, yep, I'm there. You got to keep going. And understanding that E+R=O is simply the way life works is going to get you to the right place. That, hey, I just have to manage me better. So everything you're looking for with the stores, it starts with you managing you the best way possible. How can I manage my R? So when we look at E+R=O, it's a system. And by a system, it's replicable. I can replicate it over and over and over for any scenario in my life. Any scenario. And when I look at this, the first thing I want to ask is, what outcome do I want? Think about it. What are some scenarios you deal with? And just think, what do I want? We've all, well, not everybody, I should say. There's some people from California here. We've driven in the snow. In the snow. Are you in the mountains in the snow? Okay, so no snow. But Floridians? No? So snow, right? Those of us who've driven in the snow, I hate to use this story with people from all over the country. It kind of loses some of its zeal. But when you think about driving on the snow and you start sliding, what's the first thing going through your mind besides, oh, poop? Don't wreck, don't wreck, don't wreck. So what you want is primary, right? Do not wreck said car. What's the next thing you got to realize? What's the event I have? Okay, I'm sideways. Is the road flat? Is the road tilted? Am I going downhill? Am I going uphill? Do I have four-wheel drive or am I in two-wheel drive? I am defining this event. It is going through my head. I am trying to cycle through all the stuff I need to know to make a smart choice. And then finally, what response do I need? Because slamming on the brakes ain't what you need, but how many people see it happen? But when I build this correctly, I see the situation differently. Because most people in the events of life, without a system, how do they respond? They have the event, they just do something. Did they ever give consideration to what the outcome would be? Think about it. How many people just blurt something out online? No consideration for what might come afterwards. And you see this, that's what one of the big troubles with social media is people just say whatever and go, well, we'll figure out what happens afterwards. And the idea is that you can't just do that. It's like, you've got to think about what is the outcome I want before I respond. Same thing happens in your stores. If I'm going to have a hard conversation with somebody, before just yelling at them, have anybody yelled at their kids? And after the fact, you realize you were wrong? I know some of you have never been wrong. But in that moment, you never gave thought to the outcome. You just thought, I was really angry right now. And in that moment, it grabbed you. No thought to the outcome. And I think about this. This is not just for your work life. When I teach the rFactor, I want you to understand this for you personally. This makes a difference in your kids' lives. We are in 52 school districts plus now. We are teaching young people these skills so they can have them for the rest of their lives. How it works is young people, like my son gets into a fight with a neighbor kid. They were just fussing, not a real fight, just arguing. And he comes in and I said, what's the problem? He says, well, Ben and I were fighting. I said, well, what do you want? What's the O you want? He goes, well, I want to go play with Ben. I said, well, what are you guys dealing with? Well, we were arguing over something dumb like a video game or a stick, Lord knows what. And I said, well, what do you need? He's like, I should probably go apologize to him. I was like, so if you want to get this, it's going to require you to apologize. Truth is, he walked over there, Ben apologized, he apologized, they were back to playing. When kids can see E+R=O clearly and adults can't, I'm worried. He sees it clearly. You should see every situation through this lens. And the better you get at it, the better you'll be able to function. E+R=O, it is a system. If you're not doing it, you're winging it. Most people. Now, how does this go the bad way? Is when discipline and default comes on board. Discipline-driven responses produce generally discipline-driven outcomes. Default-driven responses produce default-driven outcomes. And as we look at that, where do you think most people find frustration in life? Or a lot of people. I was doing everything right and I still lost. But I tell you what, if you don't continually do things right, it's going to be real hard to win. If you're not living the culture and you're not challenging people to generate that Jennifer experience, your chances of getting it are very slim, aren't they? You can't just hope they catch on. You've got to actually behave in a way that produces it. Now, here's where we run into entitlement. Here's where we run into frustration. I want to behave down here, but I want to get the O from up here. And I think I deserve it. I'm going to be emotional, impulsive. I'm going to be on autopilot and habitual. I'm going to be resistant and stay in my comfort zone. And I deserve and I demand to have everything everybody else has. Whoops. That doesn't work that way. Now, blind squirrel will find a nut now and again, right? But on a long enough trajectory, I want you to look at that. Long enough trajectory. What's the chance of you being successful if you're on default most of the time? Long term, pretty slim. And long term, it's going to start in making mistakes and then finally ends in failure. It's not good. But the top one, if you are disciplined long enough, I come back to using schools here for a moment. If you think about just kids today, if I'm disciplined my whole time in school, how many options do I have at the end? If you can teach your kids to be disciplined, not only a good career, but a good college, they have options. If you can teach your employees, the people in the stores to be disciplined, how many options do they have? Is there mobility for them, potentially, if they can just be disciplined? Yeah. What happens if they're on default? How long can a person working for Big Lots be on default being impulsive all the time? On autopilot, habitual, or maybe resistant? How long can they stick around before finally, and it may be years, and it finally comes to a point where someone goes, okay, this has been long enough, you gotta go. That's what happens. Now here's the trick. Nobody's 100% one or 100% the other. And I like to, anybody watch, okay, highbrow TV again, you guys ready? I know, I shouldn't talk about TV. How many people have seen the show Hoarders? See, the guilty pleasure. I have enough people that will actually raise their hand. TV show Hoarders. And we talk about this, and we talk about discipline and default. And I think about this in depth when I say there was a homeless guy living in the Hoarder's front yard. And they asked him, they said, how'd you end up here? He goes, well, I used to be an attorney. And I was like, good. No, sorry. No. And as he's sitting there, he said, how did you end up here? He goes, well, everybody was only 3 bad decisions from using a bathroom in a bucket. After I got past the gross image of everything, it hit me how correct they were. How many of us, either in our personal lives, in college, in our relationships, have been on mistake 1, mistake 2, and they're about to make mistake 3 and go, whoa, that's too far, I should probably go backwards. To me, that's the definition. We all have discipline in us, we all have default in us, and we make those decisions all the time. What I've got to convince people to do is, don't get so close to being in the bucket. Don't get that close. Choose discipline. Choose discipline. Now, anybody gone on a family vacation? In a car. Either you were the child in the car or you were the parent driving the car. Family road trip? Wally World kids? Wally World dad. So everybody takes that trip that for grandma's for Thanksgiving. You get in the car, you get ready to drive. What's the outcome you want on that trip? I want to get there alive, safe. What else do we want? Unannoyed. Huh? Sane. How many people want to bring their Facebook kids? I had a guy from Alabama teach me this, so I'm going to share it with everybody. Facebook kids are the kids you want to share, not the ones you normally bring. So you got your Facebook kids with you. You show up. That's what you want. A great trip. On time. Now, what are some of the events that are going to happen to you every holiday when you travel with your family? You're going to be angry on the road. There's going to be other drivers. And what do other drivers do? They brake check us. They tailgate us. They text and drive. What else is out there? What other E's do we deal with in this thing? I gotta go pee. I gotta stop. He's touching me. We forget one of them.
Are we there yet?
Oh, you guys are laughing. When I was a child, Mom said, don't get out of this station wagon or I will leave you. Well, I'm the youngest of 5 boys. So my brothers all got in the car, and I had gotten out because the neighbor kid said, hey, I got a new Lego set. Come look. I was like, okay. I came out of his house, the car was gone. Now, in the greater scope of things, you think one of the 4 brothers or my father would have said, hey, we're missing one. No. Long story short, make sure you don't leave one behind. So the event, there's construction, there's weather, all these other things are happening. You're familiar with it, right? How do you respond when your kids are fighting in the back seat? Yell and scream, right? Usually when I have a dry erase board, I'll write up the word curse. That's going to be your standard answer for 90% of these. You yell and scream. What do we do when they say, we got to go to the bathroom, we got to stop, we got to stop? What kind of nice, caring parents are we? Hold it. What else do we do? When there's traffic, hence that line curse is really important. We yell and scream at traffic. What do we do when someone leaves late? You're trying to get out of the house, your significant other is dragging feet, and a small party's like, tick-tock, tick-tock. We usually fight and fuss. What do we do when somebody else tailgates us? Brake check. Let me see how good your brakes are. What do we do when someone's driving too slow in front of us? I can get up on their butt and remind them how fast they should be going. If you think about it, the responses you just gave to each one of those scenarios you will experience during your trip, does any of that get you to grandma's house safe, happy, in a good mood with your Facebook kids? No. Our behavior, typically on day-to-day life, is out of alignment with the goals we have. What you to understand is there's a lot of folks that are managing these stores that are in the stores when you're not there, that sometimes their behaviors are not in alignment with the Jennifer experience. And we need to do everything these are the E's they're all going to face. I need you to see the experience clearly so you can behave with discipline. There's a lot of folks that see a safety issue and still behave where? They know it's a safety issue. They can see it. It looks dangerous. It actually says danger on the package. And they still choose to default. We've got to get people thinking differently. I need them to see the world in E+R=O. It's almost like having them see things in an ORM. Sorry, do you guys are familiar with ORM? Operational Risk Management? It's a Navy phrase. They have a little form. And it puts all your hazards down and all your mitigating factors and then the residual risk. And when you look at it, you go, okay, what's my actually number? Is it worth it? I want people to be that disciplined when they look at safety, that disciplined when they look at the Jennifer experience. To get the actual outcome you want on that trip to grandma's house, what should you do? Get up a little earlier. Make sure you pack everything out. Dehydrate your kids.
Tape their mouth shut.
Tape their mouth shut. Maybe just kind of play some music and calm down because you know traffic's going to be there. Plan ahead. Checklists. There's things we could do. Why don't we do them? It's effort, and it's not fun, and I don't want to do it. And every year, you know what the definition of insanity is? Every year you step and go, this year's gonna be different. This is the one where it's not gonna be chaos. And it's just like Clark driving down the highway. It happens every time. The truth is, with our actual behavior, what we do on a regular basis, driving places with our family, what's the outcome we actually want based on our silliness? I want 0 inconveniences. Seriously, I think I'm entitled to 0 inconvenience. And I want to go fast, and I want to be first, and I want my whole family to be mute. I don't want to hear from anybody. I want to be behind the wheel and go. Do you think our outcome we actually want's a little crazy? But that's the way we behave. And this is what I want you to start seeing is a lot of the times our behavior is not in alignment with where we want to go. We got to change it. That's why you got to see it this way. Now, to actually see things this way is going to require that you have the disciplines that we talk about here. The rFactor disciplines are 6 disciplines that applied kind of in sequential order prepare you to live the best version of you on a regular basis. It's these disciplines that when activated in the right order will reduce injuries, increase the delivery of the experience. But I have to actually use it. So the first one I want you to see is press pause. It sounds so simple, and it's funny. I get to sell common sense across America. What'd Grandma say to you? Blank before you speak. Think. Why do you think Grandma told young kid you to think before you speak? Experience, because I know young people without pausing will do what? Kids say the darndest things, right? Never fails, right? So why do we press pause? How many injuries would have been reduced in the workspace if people just paused for a second prior to acting? I mean, my safety folks, how many people would reduce injury, reduce incident if they just pause for a second and see the situation clearly? But what do we do instead of pause? Just power through it, right? Just keep powering through. And as I walk back in the air, I see the rollers and the belts. How many people just see something rolling down the thing, but they still, it's almost like in slow motion, Austin Powers, sticking their hand out like, no. I'm like, get your hand out of there. What are you doing? Vehicle rollovers in the Navy SEALs, when we go out in these little side-by-sides, do you know how many people have broken arms, wrists, and everything else? Just because as a vehicle's rolling, they feel the mental urge to go, like you're going to stop a vehicle from rolling over. But that's just it. We don't pause. We don't think. And it happens. It happens to the best of us. Pause. The pause allows you the time to slow down. Slow down impulse, and the impulse is the emotion, and to slow down autopilot. It gives you an opportunity to remove 2 of the 3 default behaviors right off the bat. If I just pause. How many times did you not have gotten in trouble with your significant other if you'd have paused before you spoke? How many dinners would have been much more pleasant if I'd have just shut my mouth? But sometimes you say something and go, duh, I shouldn't have said that. But you learn, right? So press pause. It allows you also to put the system into E+R=O and ask the right questions to see the event, the outcome you want, and build a response. And when I look at press pause, I got to ask the right questions to get clarity. Some questions like, what is it I'm not seeing I should see? How is it other people see the situation? What is it I'm seeing but I'm ignoring? That can't be important. What is it that I'm seeing that I just discount as not important or act like I didn't see? Why would I act like I don't see something? Because then I got to deal with it. And in the big picture, if I ask better questions, I can expand my frame and see more of a situation. That allows me to pause and make better choices. That's why we pause. Number 2, get your mind right. Manage your internal response. If what's going on between your ears is a soup sandwich, if you're a minestrone on rye, then what's coming out to you is probably the same way. You've got to manage what's going on between your ears. You have to think about what's going on. And if I bring a negative mindset, I will not be positive. It is impossible to have that mindset go on and be successful. And when we talk about the mindset, we're really discussing what you focus on and what catches your attention. Does everything that catches your attention deserve it? Nah. But it catches it all the same. And when that thing that doesn't deserve our attention catches it, what do? We self-talk. We tell ourselves a story about it. And once I've told myself a story, I believe it. I'll give you the example. I started to see that. I told myself a story. I got a feeling of anger, and I acted on it. And that reinforced what I focused on. Let me tell you the story. So I got home. Anybody here travel a little bit? All right, so we travel a little bit. Anybody get home and you're kind of cranky? Okay, so I came home. You guys identify with me. I came home from a long trip, and I pull in the garage, and I noticed that my garage has a little divider thingy in between the two bays. I noticed the garbage cans are in between. My wife has rubbed the garbage cans with her front fender. Not smashed into them, rubbed them against her car. Now, I'm in a bad mood, so my focus goes immediately to what? The damage, right? It must be damage, right? My focus, damage. What do I tell myself about my wife in that moment? Come on. And it was all clean at this point.
What's her problem?
What's wrong with her? Why would she hit those garbage? They're there every day. It's not like they just showed up. So how do I feel about her in that moment? Frustrated. I'm like, God, I can't believe you hit those garbage cans. Whatever. So what does frustrated husband do action-wise? Come on, I'm passive-aggressive at this point. Slam that truck door like a bully. And I turn around and I start walking towards the door. And I got my car keys in my hand. I got my bag on my shoulder. And I get to the door, and lo and behold, she has the audacity to safeguard our home. She had the guts to lock the door. And in that moment, what do you think my focus went to in that moment? The disrespect. She knows I don't like that. It's disrespectful. What did I tell myself about her in that moment? She does this on purpose. So now I'm no longer irritated husband, I'm aggravated. Starting to get the frustration. The irony of all ironies is, what did I tell you earlier I had in my hands? Yeah, the key. Very inconvenient. So how did I act? Slam open the house door. Slam shut the house door. Stomp, stomp, stomp to my office, drop my bag. And I go into the kitchen. And I decide I'm going to get a spoon out for something. And I realize that she has the audacity, the gall, the nerve, the intestinal fortitude to move my spoons from the left, don't get mad at her, to the right. Same drawer. Who does she think she is? What's wrong with her? How do I talk to myself? What does my focus go to? The sheer disrespect for me as a member of this family to move my spoons from the left to the right is insane. How do I feel about her in this moment? Now I'm mad. That was it. Game on. It's go time. That's what my trigger was. And what is my action? How every stupid husband acts when he goes, honey, that is the stupidest thing you've done all day. Why would you move the spoons over? That's dumb. Yeah, now I've stepped in it. The good news is my wife is more emotionally intelligent than I am. And she looked at me and she said, that's not happening. And she turned and walked off. What's my focus go to? The disrespect of walking. We were fighting. You don't get to leave. So, how did I feel? Now I'm angry. It's stomping time. I'm going after her. Now, let me just ask you, how many of you have picked a fight with your significant other or created a situation that didn't exist all over something that you've seen 1,000 times and it never bothered you before? That is how you get derailed by not getting your mind right. Get your mind right is about getting control of that and not allowing that cycle to take off on you. You have a bad drive into work. You show up and you're looking for things in the store to support your bad mood. You're looking for things in the other employees to give you justification for your anger. A bad mood doesn't care if you're successful. It doesn't care about the Jennifer experience. It only cares about being fed. So be cautious about what you give your attention to. Be very cautious of how you talk to yourself, because you can tell yourself a story that is 100% false and you believe it. That's why I want you to understand, getting your mind right is essential. But if you press pause and get your mind right and don't do this, what was the point? If you don't step up and deal with the event in front of you, what good is it? Now, think of this from the employee side that you're going to help try and coach and teach and do this. So press pause, get your mind right, step up and give the experience. Behave in a way that gives it. Step up and deal with it. You need to win the moment. Are there some moments that challenge your people? They challenge them. Facing someone who's shoplifting. Dealing with something you thought was there and it's not there. Sometimes is it hard to step up? Does it take courage? Hey, we've got a huge loss right now and I have to explain it to somebody. Does it take courage to tell somebody that? Does it take courage to step up to finding out a friend is doing something they shouldn't be doing in that store? And I want those people to behave in a way that they step up in the moment and win that moment. Your life is a series of little moments. Back to that poop in a bucket. Success is built through momentum, right? You win one, then you win another one. You win another one, next thing you know, you got momentum. And if you win one and nothing else, you're the Browns. Sorry, I had to take that shot because Seth's a big Brownie fan, so. But they're 1-1-1, so they're kind of like, hey, we're great. Sorry, I had to take my Brown shot. But the idea is that we've got to step up and win the moment. There's also some stuff that life is life just one moment? Does it get long? How many people are overwhelmed? And you mentioned some things earlier. I was listening. They said, you've got the holidays coming. How many of your staff are sitting in the stores and they are overwhelmed about how am I going to give this experience with all this inventory and stuff coming and going and high volume? Are there people who are overwhelmed? How you step up over a long period of time is you have to segment. You have to make your day into manageable chunks. Someone asked me once, like, how did you make it through Hell Week? I was like, I just didn't quit. And then I thought about it, it was bigger than that. For those of you unfamiliar, Hell Week is 5 days without sleep. On the third day, you get 1 hour, which is quite possibly the worst nap in the history of mankind. Because when you wake up, now you're stiff and you're hurting. But people ask me, how do you do that? And I said, if you think about the whole thing when it starts, it's overwhelming. You'll quit. You'll look at it, that's too much, I'm out. But if you manage it in something smaller chunks, like your day and like your season that's coming up, I need to manage myself from meal to meal. Can I be disciplined from breakfast to lunch? Can I be disciplined from lunch to dinner? And for SEAL training, from dinner to mid-rats, from mid-rats to breakfast again. If I can just go meal to meal, there's nothing I can't do. And all I got to do between those segments is win the moments. But a lot of people can't segment because what do they see? All of it. And all of it's too much to take in. And that's why we have to learn to segment and step up and win the moments and win over a long period of time. We've also got to step up to the predictable events. Are there some folks that know that the rush is coming and aren't doing anything to prepare themselves? Yep. But a smart organization is preparing for that rush. And you talked about a lot of really smart things the company was doing to make sure inventory and stuff was coming in. That's called stepping up to pre-planning. And then there's adversity. Is adversity coming? What kind of adversity are we going to face? Every type. From people calling off, to weather, to someone, any number of things, robbing a store, anything can happen. Adversity is coming. The question is what and what shape it's going to come into and how am I going to deal with it? And am I training myself to deal with it when it comes? Why do you think you train people on CPR? You train people on fire safety so that when that happens, you're prepared. You have to step up to that kind of adversity. The next thing is after I've stepped up, guess what? Do you think the world's going to sit still for you and say, all right, you stepped up, we're good now? Step up to change, adjust and adapt. It's going to require that the people in your organization and the people in this room be very, very good at adjusting. And what are we adjusting and adapting to? We're changing because we have new events, hence the rush right now in the holidays, which is going to be followed by what? Inventory. I'm going to constantly have to adjust my behavior because the E's are different. Now, if we're going to adjust because we have new outcomes to achieve, what if the company says this is a new outcome you all have to achieve? Jennifer experience. That's going to require that some people who haven't engaged in it yet change their behavior. My R has to change to get that new O. Some folks here are in transformational change. It's a bigger picture thing. You came from another company, and this is all new for you. New E's, new R's, new O's. You're in a whole new environment. And that's good, because people who are good at transformational change can deal with anything. They're like, good, I like change. What do you want different? I joined Focus 3 because it was not a static job. I'd be on the road, I'd be moving around, I'd be different folks, different experiences, and I love it because it challenges me. But the mindset you bring to change is everything. Some people try to run from it, go to another company. Some people get angry at it. Some people try to slow play it. Change is coming, and they go, well, I'll just stand here and act like it's happening. You still got to do something. The only real way to adjust and adapt is to take it head on and just go for it. Go do it. It's the only real way to do it. Make a difference. This is about the experience your behavior gives other people. This is where Jennifer lives. Right here. Jennifer lives in make a difference. Your ability to behave in a way and respond to your customers and to your fellow employees in a way that delivers the Jennifer experience. That experience requires something from you. And for make a difference, that means my R is an E for you. How I behave is creating an E for you, an experience, an event. What kind of E am I giving you? This is why I want you to understand the 20 square feet again. What you do in your 20 square feet matters. It is giving an event to everyone. You're either giving the experience or you're not. It's very black and white there. There's no I'm kind of giving the experience. And just realize, my R is an E for others. I give you the example. Anybody come home tired? You walk in and tell your kids, hey, just give me 5 minutes? You think it's kind of nothing, right? Just give me 5 minutes. Don't even think twice about it. I set my bag down. I sat on the couch. My son goes into the kitchen with my wife and says, my wife goes, why aren't you playing with Dad? She goes, well, he looks at her and says, well, he's not interested in me. All I asked for was the 5 minutes to get my head right. But his experience was what?
Rejection.
Yeah. We have to be cautious of how we respond so we can deliver the best experience of us. And realize that we have to work at it. We have to have empathy. We have to truly contribute to other people. The last thing I'm talking about is build skill. I found this out yesterday. Somebody got their Googler out and they looked this up. And they said, of all the events that you will experience in your life, 93% of them you'll experience again. If that's the case, shouldn't you get good at dealing with that? Some of them more often than one, or more often than twice. It's an investment that you actually get good at building skill. There's a lot of folks that are great at certain things, but they're not skilled at it. I know a lot, but I'm not skillful. And building skill is about going beyond your natural gifts. Building skill is about taking yourself from automatic to exceptional, to elite. And the only way to do that is to challenge yourself every day, to push yourself for new things, to keep seeing what's next. I'm steal this from Brian, my boss, and when I look at it, I say, if you look back a year from now and aren't a little bit embarrassed that I could have done better, then you didn't grow at all. You didn't build any new skills. And the goal here is that you can actually continually build skill at whatever you're doing. Now, big picture, what I want you to understand is E+R=O is simply the way life works, but it's also the way you're going to deliver the experience you're being asked to deliver. It's the way you're going to deliver safety. It's the way you're going to deliver the Jennifer experience, and it's the way you're going to have all the best things in your life. If you see this system for what it is, you can apply it to anything. I'll give you guys, I'm hoping everybody walks away with a great experience, but I want you to walk away with a tool. And this is a tool you can use anywhere. Talk about it with your kids. This is not a secret. We're not sitting here at Focus 3 going, shh, just this group gets to hear it. Share it with other people. Let them know there's a system we can use. I appreciate everybody's attention today. I hope you guys get everything you're looking for in the Jennifer experience and coming in the holidays. Good luck. Reduce the BCD, all right? Thank you. All right. Have a good day.